A video defending plagiarism? Well, at the very least, this has my attention.
And I know that you're thinking to yourself, okay, all right, like a good little YouTube viewer, I clicked your video, I clicked like, I subscribed, I rang the bell, I did all that stuff. Now you got to tell me this insane opinion you have about how plagiarism is awesome. And, well, it's not. It's not a cool thing to do.
Damn it, I was tricked. But you know what? I'll give this video the time of day regardless. So Peter Coffin did not like H-Bomber Guy's video on plagiarism. And, well, Peter, why don't you tell us why that is?
But over the course of this video, I'm going to ask you to consider an alternative view. It's not really so much that it is a good or a bad thing, but instead a result of circumstances and conditions.
So is everything else. Every action that occurs is the result of certain conditions and certain circumstances, which are different things, apparently, even though they are really just synonyms for each other. But maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself here.
Plagiarism is not the plot of Highlander, okay? You don't kill them to become them. That's not it. That's not how war is. That's not how this is.
No, if anything, it's the plot of Highlander 2. Specifically that one scene where it's revealed that the immortals are from an alien planet.
Remember, Highlander. Remember your home. Another galaxy. You were chosen. Remember?
Yes. Yes, I remember. The beginning. 500 years ago. On the planet Zeist.
Battles that are fought in the real world are fought over material conditions, right? And the same thing goes for plagiarism.
Okay, this goes on for a bit, so I'm going to do some summarizing in order to explain what Peter's point is. You see, Peter feels like H-Bomb didn't discuss the material conditions that cause plagiarism. Or specifically, he didn't criticize capitalism. Or to be even more specific, the profit motive. Even though I don't think they ever dropped the term in the video. A follow-up article written for Substack even sees Peter highlighting a comment they left under the original video where they say their biggest issue is the fact that H-Bomber Guy refused to criticize capitalism. Oh, and if you're wondering about that whole literally discouraging systemic solutions thing, well, that's in reference to this clip, which Peter shows in their video.
I'm not smart enough to know what we're supposed to do about plagiarism. I think trying to fix it in any systemic way could risk making it worse. Let's imagine YouTube introduced some kind of plagiarism claim system. We'd be expecting someone at YouTube to be able to decide whether something is plagiarism or not. And I don't like the idea of YouTube having any more power than they already have.
Now, it should be noted that H-Bomber Guy specifically said he couldn't think of a systemic solution, not that we shouldn't attempt to pursue one, let alone that we shouldn't look at this issue systemically at all. I mention that because here's how Peter introduced the clip in their video.
But even by answering a few simple questions, we get into talking about systems. And that's not what H-Bomb wants to do.
And there are two things that need to be noted about this. First off, Peter Coffin completely misrepresented what H-Bomb said in the clip they played, and second off, H-Bomb actually did look at this issue systemically in the video. The section on YouTube Content Mills is a very good example of this, as after describing what they are, H-Bomber Guy explains how one of the people he just caught plagiarizing, Illuminati, was finding various ways to profit off of her plagiarized videos.
But at a certain point, you're just repackaging other people's work and selling it off as your own. And speaking of selling, why would someone do this? Well, when I sat down to watch the Fire Festival video, I got served 2 advertisements before I could hit play, and then immediately got hit by a commercial for Blair's plushie.
Make sure to snag one before it's gone because these are not coming back once this runs out.
Then 11 minutes in, I got a message from today's sponsor, Mint Mobile, where I could get Squixteen Dingles off my Bexed burger.
And we will begin to unravel what happened at the Fire Festival right after this ad break. Make sure you go to mintmobile.com/MLM. That's mintmobile.com/MLM.
And then within seconds of that sponsorship ending, I got a second sponsorship. She has two right next to each other. Go to blueland.com/Illuminor.
To blueland.com/MLM. That's 15% off your first order of any products of Blueland orders at blueland.com/MLM.
Now, I don't want to speculate how much money Blair made from this sloppy shit that was made in about a day. But I do know how much a video with that many views makes in ad revenue, and I know what the overhead is on those plushies, and I've been offered similar sponsorships. So I'm pretty comfortable in saying she made a fuck ton of money from stealing someone else's documentary. It turns out it's the same twist it always is. Why did this stupid shit happen? Oh, it's money!
Peter follows up that H-Bomber Guy clip by saying the following.
So in my eyes, there's two major problems with this. The first one, the obvious one, he just outright discourages looking at this systemically. He straightforwardly says, don't even think about fixing this systemically.
Except he doesn't. He criticizes one specific systemic solution. However, he ends the video by noting that he wants people to come up with an idea that would fix the problem long term.
Simply being able to talk about plagiarism and bring attention to it and let people decide if something is and who they want to support going forward, that's good enough for now. But don't take my word for it on this. I'm certainly not. Someone smarter than me might come up with a better idea, so let's keep our eyes peeled for that.
I think he does that because this is a 4-hour goddamn video and he doesn't talk about systems. He spends the entire time parading around examples of people doing plagiarism on YouTube and saying hashtag do better. It's important that individuals take more responsibility here.
Yeah, most of this video is just Peter repeating the same points for 20 minutes, which, as I already established, were based on an utterly flawed understanding of H-Bomber Guy's video. He does critique the system that he feels creates plagiarism, and he encourages his audience to do the same. I also want to note that shot at telling people to do better. What should we do instead, Peter? Should we tell them to do worse?
Now, the point of my video isn't, hey, H-Bomber Guy's a baddie because he doesn't do the right things according to what I think. I'm not calling H-Bomb a baddie here. I'm not trying to direct you towards attacking him. I'm just not that kind of creator, okay? And whether H-Bomb is or isn't, this video is that type of video. It's pointing out a bunch of baddies out there for you to hate, for you to dislike, for you to go after and attack.
Okay, I'll ignore the use of the word attack, implying H-Bomber Guy is inciting harassment against these people, because that could very well be an unintentional implication, although an implication nonetheless. Seriously, Peter, you should probably think about what you're saying a tad harder. And instead, I'm just going to say, why shouldn't we dislike these people if we have solid evidence they did something morally wrong? You don't actually answer that question. You say H-Bomber Guy didn't do a good enough job critiquing the system which causes plagiarism, and even if I disagree, I can at the very least understand that. However, why should that system existing therefore mean we don't have animosity to people who act unethically so they can get ahead in it? Now, to be fair, Peter Coffin does offer somewhat of an answer to the question I just asked in their post on Substack, which I mentioned earlier. However, their answer still leaves a lot to be desired. To quote from said article, "We can't just ask people to behave better, though. We need to rethink the entire system that shapes these behaviors." Again, Peter is adding the utterly incorrect idea that H-Bomber Guy only critiqued individuals and did not critique the systems in his video. I also want to point out the next thing Peter says in this article, as they seem to be under the impression that plagiarism is caused by capitalism, something that I also have some issues with. But first, I will allow them to make their point. This is systemic, rooted deeply in the capitalist mode of production. Our society is built on a contradiction: socialized production juxtaposed against private appropriation for profit. Plagiarism then becomes a byproduct of this contradiction, a natural outcome in a system that commodifies creativity and rewards replication over innovation. We must look beyond moralistic critiques and individual blame to address this or any issue. watch my video. And when I read this, all I could think of was an Odd Ones Out video I had seen years ago where James talks about times he plagiarized, none of which were for his own profit, I should note, but were instead for the sake of his school assignments.
The first time that I got caught cheating was in 9th grade. And if you stalk me and watch my old videos, you know that I went to a preparatory school my freshman year. And in preparatory school, the amount of work they gave you as kids was just stupid. So cut me some slack. In one class, we had to write an essay about something historical or something, and I chose to write about the Berlin Wall, specifically about people who escaped across the Berlin Wall. Now, I chose this topic because, I don't know if you know this, but there's a National Geographic documentary about this exact topic. So I didn't copy and paste anything into my essay per se, it's just I told the exact same stories in the exact same order as the documentary, and okay, I might have wrote some things down word for word, but at least I didn't plagiarize it from Wikipedia, okay? So I didn't copy and paste anything until I had to write the conclusion of the essay, and I found this article talking about it, and the article said some things that would have been perfect in my essay, so Control-C, Control-V. On the 3rd semester of community college, I took a public speaking class. Now, I might be an introvert, but I don't have a problem with public speaking. That's part of my job now. I took the class because it would be an easy A, and I needed a communications credit for my major. I wanted to be a math teacher, and you may not have noticed, but they publicly speak all the time. So I take the class, I'm like the best person in the class, right? And for the final, we had to give a persuasive speech in front of everyone. Oh, and by the way, I didn't learn like any tricks to help with public speaking. The whole class was literally just us giving speeches to each other over and over. So 3 semesters of doing easy classes and wasting my time, my apathy meters were just off the charts. I didn't want to work too hard, so I chose to do my speech on why we should get rid of the penny. And I don't know if you know this, but there's this YouTube video made by CGP Grey that makes great arguments on why we Americans should get rid of the penny. Again, I didn't copy and paste anything per se, it's just the speech I gave had the exact same arguments in the exact same order as CGP Grey. Okay, it was pretty much a one-for-one recreation of his whole video.
People plagiarize because of a combination of willingness to engage in intellectual dishonesty and it just being easier than not plagiarizing. Copying and pasting someone's words is significantly quicker than writing out your own, something which Peter does acknowledge.
Do you want to know why plagiarism even matters at all? It's systemic incentives. Why aggregate content rather than create it? Well, creativity is labor. It takes energy and focus and time. Aggregating content, yes, it does take those things, but to a lesser extent. And not only does it take less of those things, but it's content that's already proven itself. And understanding that, it becomes pretty easy to see why people plagiarize.
But that's not because of capitalism. If anything, that's because of keyboard shortcuts. Would abolishing capitalism make plagiarism harder or give people less incentive to be intellectually dishonest? I mean, you could make a case for the second one. However, Peter really doesn't. Instead, they just get mad H-Bomber Guy didn't. All while pretending like capitalism is the only cause when that's simply not the case. On the topic of this article, Peter spends a lot of time talking about false accusations of plagiarism, specifically saying the following about the result of H-Bomber Guy's video. Further, this mode of criticism creates the basis for a new cancel culture witch hunt, or to use a different term, leftist organizing, that is already harming individual creators. Again, I have to ask what exactly the implication here is supposed to be. We shouldn't criticize plagiarism until we abolish capitalism? Why are we not allowed to point out that bad people are abusing the system and criticize those bad actors, while also working to eradicate the incentives that are causing the issue to sprout in the first place? You're drawing this utterly false dichotomy, Peter.
You see, what this is a Reddit post that makes sure you know it's positive by recommending some good queer YouTubers first, and then make space for the juice. What's the juice, you might ask? Well, it's a list of people to cancel. It's Internet Historian, who's a big baddie. Summerton is a baddie. We a Boss is a baddie. Johnny Harris is a baddie. internet historian is still a baddie. I guess James Stephanie Sterling is both a baddie and a queer creator worth recommending. Oh, and an internet historian, also a baddie.
You wonder why people are trying to ruin one another in this community. It's because of this mindset that anger and wrath wins. Oh boy, you lied to people. To the gulag you go! Forget the good you did for people. Forget the fact that you basically built the foundation of my channel and helped me get on my feet, junkie. You lied about people, and someone decided to out you for it. It's time to crucify you and make you walk on eggshells.
Anyway, that's all I want to cover, so final thoughts. Peter Coffin misrepresented what H-Bomber Guy said so they could make points, many of which H-Bomber Guy didn't even disagree with. Good night, and good luck.